Interestingly enough, I met Khamzat Chimaev. He came up to me. He actually invited me to UFC 300. It is monumental. Alex Pereira taking on Jamahal. I think he might do it. Charles Oliveira with Arman Tsarukyan. Arman is just highly skilled and just is gonna come to try and knock your head off. And I think we've seen Charles. Justin Gaethje taking on Max Holloway for the BMF title, and this is your favorite fighter's favorite fighter. So very much looking forward to it. I just think
two weight classes, you must smash and fight ready assassin. Gastelum passing him, double leg him and tapping him. Who was the first to bring the smoke straight to Adesanya? This 5'9" middleweight, call me the brown bomber.
What's up, guys? I am back from Thailand and ready to get back into camp mode. I came back with a matchup being made. And interestingly enough, I met the headliner out there in Bang Tao. He was out there training himself in Khamzat Chimaev. He came up to me, say hello. He was very cordial, very kind, which I did not expect, to be honest. He seems like a very tough, prideful kind of guy, but in reality, he came up to me, was very kind, very cordial, and it was a pleasure meeting him. And I also know his coach, actually, from Andreas, from the All-Star, I think it was All-Star, in Sweden. And he's always been very nice. He actually invited me to come out to Dubai and train with Khamzat. I don't know if I don't think I'm going to do my full camp there, but I think eventually I will head out there to finish out the last 2 or 3 weeks of my camp out there in the Middle East, just to be able to get acclimated to all that weather, the change in time and schedule. So yeah, very cool, very interesting that I saw Khamzat, and shout out to Chima for that. So very cool, Khamzat, say what's up, and that makes it official for June 22nd. I am fighting Daniel Rodriguez in ABC's first card in Saudi Arabia, so keep an eye out on that. And very excited to get back to work against a very dangerous opponent in Daniel Rodriguez. So let's get back. We're back to work, baby. And now let's talk about UFC 300 and the predictions that I have for this card. Let's talk about it. Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the KG channel. Thank you guys for following us. Please go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. It helps the channel a ton, so thank you guys. We also got to thank Jimmy Bars. You get a bar, and you get a bar, and everyone gets a bar. Thanks to Jimmy Bars, all of this is possible, bringing you content from all over the world. So thanks to Jimmy Bars. Please support the people that support us. Go to jimmybars.com and follow them at jimmybars on Instagram. Hey guys, UFC 300 is here. Let's talk about it. It is monumental, and I mean mental by the fact that you got Deiveson Figueiredo opening up the card with Cody Garbrandt. I mean, that is crazy. I better see every seat filled up from the very first fight all the way up until the main event. I mean, this is the most stacked card the UFC has ever put together. I think so. I fought UFC 200. I remember watching UFC 100. And I mean, this is by far the best, most stacked card the UFC's ever put together. 12 current and or former champions are fighting on this card, which has never been done in the history. So this is crazy, the level, the caliber that are fighting in this card. It is monumental, guys. So I'm excited. Let's get into it. Cody Garbrandt opening up the card against Deiveson Figueiredo. Cody Garbrandt's always been one of my favorite fighters to watch. I just think he's so good. I mean, he comes in, he pieces up his opponent up until he sees red. He wants to just rip your head off and gets into the fire where sometimes he comes out on the other end. He gets knocked out. He sees red and he wants to blow your head off, and he ends up getting knocked out when he's winning a lot of these fights. If he can just stay calm, relax, technical, like we've seen his fight against Rafael Assunção, he did exactly that until he found his opening, and boom, got that knockout, right? And it was just a great performance. And that is what I think Cody Garbrandt is. I just think he's one of the most, I think he can beat them all at 135. It's just he lets his emotions get the better of him, right? And he gets into that fire, and he ends up getting TKO'd or knocked out, unfortunately. He's taking on Deiveson Figueiredo, who is coming off his win against Rob Font. He had a fantastic performance. He's coming up from 125, where he had a quadrilogy with Brandon Moreno, the only quadrilogy in UFC history, and they gave us some of the best fights at flyweight that we've ever seen. So now he's up at bantamweight. He fought Rob Font, got the win, looked great. Now he's taking on Cody. Cody's one of the best fighters in his division. I think if Deiveson can probably maybe control the fight and use his grappling to open up his strikes and really mix it up against Cody, I think he can control the fight and take home a decision win. But if he sticks to trying to trade with Cody, it could be a rough night for Deiveson, right? And I just think he's so good. He's come out to Arizona before. He's done his camps. And the one thing that I do notice with Deiveson, if he can have someone there in his camp to prevent him from doing little dumb, impulsive things that he does in the fights, like jump on a guillotine and now he's giving up position and now he's on the bottom. Stuff like that. If he can have someone in his corner to keep him from doing these kinds of things and just control the fight with it and rely on his grappling, I think he can win this fight. However, I'm going to go Deiveson for the win. Another fight coming up, Jim Miller versus Bobby Green, another fight that I'm looking forward to the most. I mean, Jim Miller is making his 44th UFC walkout at 40 years old. I mean, he has more UFC walkouts than he has birthdays. And he's taking on Bobby King Green, who's always a pleasure to watch. He's always been a favorite of mine to watch just because of his boxing, his slick boxing skills. And he's always entertaining, always trying to put on a show. And I like that. I like that style that he brings. And I think if Jim Miller can can take him down, control him, maybe get a submission. We've seen Bobby Green. I mean, Bobby Green is a boxer, right? So his biggest hole would be on the ground. If Bobby Green keeps it from going to the ground, he may have a shot. But I think Jim Miller right now is just in a groove. I think Jim Miller is on a streak right now that I don't know, for whatever reason, he's just in a point of his life that I feel everything is clicking, everything he sees. He's very technically sound and he's very high IQ-wise in the fights. And I think lately, everything is clicking for Jim Miller at the moment. And I'm going to say this, I feel like we're going to see him go on a title run. I don't know why, but I've been around the sport quite a bit. I've seen this happen before with other fighters, and he's just in a groove right now. I think Jim Miller is going to surprise a lot of people. He's submitted a lot of high-level black belts and TKO'd and knocked out a lot of high-level strikers. So, I feel like I'm gonna take Jim Miller for this fight. He might go in the UFC Hall of Fame. I mean, he fought at UFC 100. He fought at UFC 200. Now he's fighting at UFC 300, and he's breaking records. And I think he has the most wins in UFC history at 26. I think 26 wins. And also he's trailing Charles Oliveira for most UFC submission wins. He's breaking a lot of records this weekend, and it's great to see one of the old veterans go at it and having success at the moment still. So I'm rooting for you, Jim Miller. Another very exciting fight in the lightweight division is Jalin Turner taking on Renaito Moicano, who is one of the most entertaining personalities at the moment. His social media is always very entertaining to watch. His YouTube channel is out. He's very entertaining on that. I think he just made a podcast with Gilbert Burns, so I'm sure that's great as well. So go ahead and check it out. He's taking on Jalin Turner, who is coming off his win against Bobby Green, and before that, he had a freaking fight of the year against Dan Hooker, who it was just a back and forth battle. And these guys always bring the fireworks. They're going to bring the fireworks for April. I'm betting my money on Moicano to win. I think both of these guys have a lot to prove still in the lightweight division. They're both looking to move up the rankings, and so I think it's gonna be a pretty exciting fight. I think this has all the potential to be maybe fight of the night, which just says something, because this fight is just fully stacked of killers. But this fight particularly, I think, will be one of the most exciting fights of the night. Mark my words. All right, and that does it all for the early prelims. Now we're going to the regular prelims. Sodiq Yusuff taking on Diego Lopes. Lopes, one of the fastest rising contenders and stars in the UFC right now. I mean, I remember seeing this guy at jiu-jitsu tournaments, combat jiu-jitsu out in Mexico, and winning these tournaments. And I was just like, man, when's this guy getting the UFC? Because he has all the accolades and all the skill to pay the bill. He's taking on Sodiq Yusuff, who we haven't seen since his last fight against Edson Barboza. It was a loss, so I'm sure he's wanting to make that wrong right against Diego, who is on a little hot streak right now. He made his UFC debut against Movsar Ovalev. I'm sure I am butchering it, but he was undefeated. He's ranked in the top 10. Took the fight on like 5 days notice and almost submitted him twice. And Diego Lopes is always putting on a show. He's been on a win streak since, and it's looked fantastic. I always am looking forward to watch him. I'm taking Diego Lopes to win here. He has pretty good striking to be able to utilize his jiu-jitsu and take him down. I think he has this in the bag. Another fight, a very highly anticipated UFC debut of Kayla Harrison. She's taking on former bantamweight champion Holly Holm. And this I see kind of like a repeat of what happened with Holly and Ronda Rousey. Ronda Rousey obviously was a judoka fighter. She came in, she was the champion, and got head kicked. Holly Holm was able to defend a lot of the takedowns, a lot of the sweeps, utilize her superior striking skills. I mean, she's a former WBC boxing world champion and kickboxing world champion, and she was an MMA UFC world champion. So I think Holly knows a thing or two about defending some of these sweeps and takedowns, and I think it's just going to be, a repeat of what happened against Ronda Rousey. Kayla's going to come in. She's going to try and take her down, try and control her, try and sweep her, put her up against the fence, and try and use some of that judo to take her down. But I just don't know if Kayla has all the resources to be able to take her down or outstrike her. I definitely don't think that. I think Holly Holm is going to come out, maybe even get a similar finish to what happened to Ronda Rousey so many years ago. I think a head kick could be prominent in this fight. So mark my words. Come back to the comment section for that. Next, after that, we got Kelvin Kattar taking on Aljamain Sterling. Aljo coming up to featherweight after he lost his title against Sean O'Malley. I think it was only a matter of time before Aljo came up a division. I mean, he's one of the biggest bantamweights I've ever seen, and he's taking on Kelvin Kattar, who we haven't seen since his last loss against Arnold Allen, and he also took a knee injury in that fight. It was I think May of 2022. So we haven't seen him in over a year. I'm sure he took care of his injuries. I'm sure he's motivated and ready to come back, ready to climb up the rankings still. I'm sure he has something to prove, has a chip on his shoulder, wants to go out and prove a point against a highly touted opponent like Aljamain Sterling, right? He's a former champion, making an ascent to featherweight. So Kelvin Kattar, I'm sure, is looking to prove a point. However, I think if Aljo is able to rely on all his grappling skills to be able to combine it with his striking skills, usually we see him be that backpack type of opponent where he tries to take you down, take your back, and just control you, beat you up, and hopefully get that submission. And I think if Aljo can stick to that kind of game plan, I think we're going to see him come out on top and take on a very dangerous opponent in Kelvin Kattar. Now, to close out the prelims, before we get into the pay-per-view, is Jiri Prochazka taking on Aleksander Rakic. The last time we saw Prochazka, we saw him headline a UFC pay-per-view against Alex Pereira, who they were fighting for that vacant light heavyweight title. And he's taking on Aleksander Rakic, who we haven't seen in almost 2 years. His last fight was a loss against Jan Blachowicz. I don't know why it took so long for Rakic to get a fight, but now he's fighting Jiri Prochazka in what could very well be a number one contender's fight, right? The winner of this fight could get a fight for the title. So, very heavy title implications in this fight. Jiri, I think, is just so good, very elusive, very dynamic in his approach to striking. I just think if he can add a little bit of boxing fundamentals to his striking, a little boxing fundamentals to his kickboxing as well, I think he's going to be so much better. He's going to be able to see a lot of those openings that he's looking for. I feel like I'm very familiar with that style just because I trained with a lot of weird taekwondo guys before in the past, like Uriah Hall. Uriah Hall is a very elusive, dynamic striker, so I've kind of seen it all. And Jiri, I think, just needs a little bit of fundamentals to be able to see those holes that he wants to see. And I'm taking him for the win. He's coming back after an injury, and he's trying to stay active. I think he's going to take this fight. Now, let's get to the first fight of the pay-per-view, which is Bo Nickal taking on Cody Brundage. And I think Cody is being written off here, man. I've seen Cody fight from some very tough situations. I've kept my eye on him ever since he was on Dana White's Contender Series, because I was in the middleweight division fighting all these killers at middleweight. So sometimes I like to look back and see the guys coming up. And along with that, I saw Bo Nickal as well, who is probably the most highly touted UFC recruit in the history of the organization. I mean, this guy, there is some serious high expectations for this guy every single time, but every single time he has delivered, right? He has I think he's 4-0 with 4 first-round finishes, and he's taking on Cody Brundage, who a lot of people are writing off. But like I said, I've seen him in very tough situations and come out on top. Somehow, some way, he finds a way to win. Cody Brundage is not to be underestimated, guys, but he is being underestimated. And on the other hand, we have Bo Nickal. I just think Bo Nickal's the real deal. As much as I wanted to see the underdog win in this fight, I think Bo Nickal is just that guy. Is that guy that everyone says he is, and he's only getting better. He's only still figuring out himself in that octagon. I can see it, especially from his last fight. I remember seeing him. He rocked out his opponent with an uppercut, and then he kind of figured that he can do it again. He followed up with an overhand right, I believe, and they just finished him off. And I remember seeing his post-fight interview, where he said, I'm still learning. I'm still learning how fast I am. And I thought that was very funny, because he doesn't even know how good he is. And it's exciting. It's exciting because his ceiling for improvement is gonna be skyrocket, and it's gonna be fun to watch him progress throughout the year. So I'm taking Bo Nickal for the win against Cody Brundage, but I don't think it's gonna be as easy as people think. Now we're going on with Charles Oliveira with Arman Tsarukyan. I'm sure I'm butchering the name. Charles Oliveira taking on number 4 lightweight ranked contender, who's last fight was against Beneil Dariush. He knocked him out in the first round, I believe. And funny enough, Charles' last fight was also against Benny. And that was a very exciting fight. Charles is coming in here to break records as well. He's had, I think he's in the lead for 19 UFC bonuses. And I'm sure I think he's in the lead for submission wins in the UFC as well. So, a lot of things happening for Charles. Obviously, this fight has title implications as well. The winner of this fight will fight for the UFC lightweight title. And in my opinion, it's going to be a very, very exciting fight. Arman is just highly skilled and very gritty and just is going to come to try and knock your head off, right? And I think we've seen Charles kind of start off a little late in his fights. And in that first round, it's going to be very, very it's going to be very dangerous for him to be able to exchange with Arman. Arman puts a lot of pressure right off the bat, and we've seen Charles start a little late in the first round. So if he can weather the storm and come back and go through that, I think we can see Charles kind of take over, use his striking to mix in his jiu-jitsu, take him down, and maybe submit him. But this fight is going to be very interesting. Like I said, the winner of this one will fight for the lightweight title against Islam Makhachev. I don't know who will win. I am, however, choosing Charles Oliveira to win. Justin Gaethje taking on Max Holloway for the BMF title, and this is the second time that we've seen Max Holloway come up to lightweight to try and gain a UFC title. And last time it was against Dustin Poirier at UFC 237 for the interim lightweight title, because I know that because I was the co-main event for the interim middleweight title against Israel Adesanya. So I was the co-main. Max and Dustin were the main event. They had also a humongous back and forth battle with Dustin eventually taking the title from Max, and that's how he became interim UFC champion. And we saw Max be very competitive as he is always, but he is, I don't think, used to fighting guys a little bit bigger than him. Justin will be a little bit stronger, a little bit heavier, and just a little bit more powerful than the fighters he's used to facing at featherweight. So I'm expecting Justin Gaethje to come out heavy with the leg kicks, especially because Max likes to kind of stay heavy on those feet using his boxing offense, right? And this will be Justin Gaethje's 12th UFC or 13th UFC fight, but 12 out of 12 times he has had post-fight bonuses. So he is at 100% rate of bonus, which means he is always putting on fireworks, always putting on shows. And this is your favorite fighter's favorite fighter. So I'm very excited for this fight. Very much looking forward to it. I just think Justin's going to be a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger, a little bit more powerful than Max, like we've seen in that Dustin Poirier fight. Now for the BMF title. So I'm taking Justin Gaethje for the win. In the co-main event of the evening, a historic battle is going down. Zhang Weili taking on Yan Xiaonan. I'm sure I'm butchering it. I'm sorry if I am. This fight, in my opinion, should be taking place in Shanghai, in Hong Kong, or somewhere in China, because this is the first time that two Chinese fighters are ever facing off for the UFC title. And this is two females. And Zhang Weili, I can't say enough good things about Zhang Weili. I mean, she is my favorite women's fighter behind Joanna Jędrzejczyk. She is a GOAT. She is going to go down in the women's UFC Hall of Fame one day. I just think she's so skilled. She's so gritty. She's so nasty. She's so violent that it amazes me. And I love Zhang Weili. I love her style. I love her swag. I love everything about her. And I've been around her. She's come out to Arizona to do her camps out here before. And so I know her a little bit as a person. She's just one of the sweetest people you can ever meet. And she's just one of my favorite people on earth and in MMA. And I just think she's so good. She's so skilled. I think, anybody they put in front of her, she's going to beat. So Yan Xiaonan, even though she's very skilled, I don't think, and she's got the materials to be able to compete against Zhang Weili's level. I mean, I think Weili is just way above everyone else. I don't think I do think it's going to be competitive, but Zhang Weili is just on another level. I'm taking her for the win for this historic battle for China. And very happy to see her compete and do well. Now we're going on for the UFC light heavyweight title main event of the evening. Alex Pereira taking on Jamahal Hill. Jamahal vacated the light heavyweight title. He never lost the title. He got injured, vacated, didn't want to hold up the division. And Alex Pereira and Jiri Prochazka fought for that vacant title with Alex coming out on top, as we all saw. And now he is the light heavyweight title. He is on track to also breaking records. I mean, he is the guy that has had the fastest rise to champion that we've seen ever in the history of the UFC. And has a great rivalry with Israel Adesanya, and it looks like they're friends, but then they're not friends. But anyways, our eyes are set on Jamahal Hill, who's been very vocal on his social media, on his YouTube channel. Go check that out if you haven't already. Jamahal has been very vocal, saying he's going to prove every doubter wrong. I mean, he has got a real chip on his shoulder, and I've seen his interviews. I've seen him say how everybody puts Alex Pereira on a pedestal and that all you doubters will be dealt with eventually. And, man, he seems pretty angry. People are writing him off against Alex Pereira, and rightfully so. You know, he never lost that title. He had a great fight against Glover Teixeira, which he eventually won, but it was a great back-and-forth battle. And, you know, he feels like he's being wronged here. He feels like he should be favorited. He feels like he is going to knock him out. And you know what? As much as I like Alex Pereira, I think he's going to surprise a lot of people. And I think he may be able to do it. He's got that self-belief. I can see it in his eyes. I can see it in the way that he acts and his physical language. He's very serious about this. And I think he's going to go in there. He's going to look for that knockout. Will it work in his favor? I don't know. But I always love an underdog story. And I hope that he's able to come out and make this happen and prove everyone wrong. As much as I like Alex Pereira, I'm a huge Alex Pereira fighter. I'm watching this main event because of Alex Pereira. But I love an underdog story a little bit more. And I think I'm rooting for Jamahal Hill to take the fight to him, and knock him out like he said he will. And I think he's really serious about it, and I think he's got this very serious conviction saying it. So I think he might do it, you know. But if he doesn't, well, that's just a testament to Alex Pereira and how good he really is. I mean, I know how good he is. I actually think I want to go out and train with him one of these days. But and so all the best to these gentlemen. You know, may the best man win. I'm hoping for the underdog story to come true, but I'm okay with it not. You know, right? Alex is just that good. You know, so it wouldn't surprise me if he just goes in there and has a great performance, or maybe even pulls out a decision win against Jamahal. But all the best, man. This card is crazy stacked. I remember fighting myself there, UFC 200 against Johnny Hendricks, and it wasn't even close to what this card is. And we had Brock Lesnar on the card fighting Mark Hunt, you know. And I actually thought that was going to be the main event. They were going to bring back Brock, but that didn't happen. But that's it, guys. That is it for my UFC predictions. I hope you enjoyed it. We went kind of long today, but thank you guys for following. Thank you guys. We got to 10,000 subscribers. Thank you guys. If you haven't subscribed already, please go ahead and subscribe. It helps the channel a ton. Go to jimmybars.com. Get your Jimmy on there and follow them on Instagram at jimmybars. Also, I'm going to be putting up some new merchandise on my website. Go ahead and check out kelvingastelum.com. We're going to be putting on new stuff, new designs. But for now, go ahead and check it out and see if you like anything, because we got some cool stuff there too. So, thank you guys. We'll see you in the next one. Hey.